Recently, we had the opportunity to talk with Nancy Black, owner of Organization Plus. Nancy helped us understand how to organize both our homes and our office, and especially how to prepare for some of those big projects that some of us might have coming up in the summertime or the fall.
Well, I started Organization Plus over 25 years ago and feel very fortunate that I still love what I'm doing. And it's really all about helping people feel in control of their lives instead of feeling like life is controlling us. We live in a treadmill, and there are days when I say, stop the world, I want to get off. So I'm really trying to help people think through what do they need to do with their time, what things do they really want to have in their home so that when they come in after a busy day, they feel comfortable, and that home could be an oasis of calm in a chaotic world.
Spring cleaning can be so daunting. How do you suggest people get started?
Well, I think you start spring cleaning the same way you'd start any other project. You have to look at what things need to be cleaned up in your house. One area usually is the entryway. So what I would suggest is that you take a piece of paper, in the center of it put a circle that says spring cleaning, and from that put a tangent for every aspect of what you want to do, like whether it's your entryway, you want to put away boots, take them to the shoe repair place if the heels are worn down, any coats that need to be cleaned, take them to the cleaner. If you have things there that people are not going to wear anymore and you decide to give them away to Beverly Bootstraps, you have to remember they need to be washed or cleaned. So that would be part of your to-do of what you need to do the spring cleaning. So the project of the entryway becomes multifaceted.
Many people have a home office. How do you suggest they get started tidying up this spring?
Well, I think to begin with they have to look at what's in that home office. The biggest problem I see in home offices is the paper piles up. And then the mail comes into the house and very often it gets mixed up. And so the kids can't find their sports roster to call somebody on their team. The person who's running a business from their home can't find that important piece of paper because it's lost in the shuffle. So it's a matter of looking at what your paper flow systems are like there, so that whether it's your mail that comes in every day or whether it's papers that are related to your office, you need to have a system so that you have a place to put them. By having a specific place, then it's much easier to put things away. Otherwise, you sort of pick something up and say, well, I don't know what to do with it, so you put it back in the pile, and then it gets in the pile like, 3 weeks later.
How do people know what products to buy?
One of the things we do when we meet is I actually show them catalogs of things or pictures of things to try to help them think through what they need so that when they go to the store they know what they're looking for. And in some instances, if we don't see it in the catalogs, I will do product research for people. The system really needs to complement their lifestyle, their work style, or their learning style. Because if a person is not comfortable with it, it's not going to work, and it's a complete waste. Well, one of the things you have to do is you have to figure out what you want to use that product for and how much space you have for it. This is a good example of one of the styles of cubes you can get with bins that go in them. And those work really well for subdividing things. So whether it's in an entryway, and this is where you keep kids' hats and gloves during the winter, and then you put their sports equipment that just says softball so they know where it is when you're ready to go out the door. That's one option. It also works really well for things like portfolios and things that you have in your office. Instead of having them on the floor where you have to move them when you want to vacuum, you can use one of these cubes and almost do it as a bookshelf. And also, if you are flying out the door because you have an appointment and you have to take those loose papers off your desk, these products are very conducive to just putting them in one of the sections, and then they don't get lost in your car either.
What is the most common reason people call you?
Whether it's an office or a home, there's just so much information that comes into us. Much of it we don't ask for. I mean, between the catalogs that come and the magazines, the newspapers that, and the brochures from last Sunday's paper or maybe last month's Sunday's paper that just have gotten lost in the pile. So it's a matter of really thinking through what comes into the house that you really look at. If you've been getting magazine subscriptions, but you never have time to look at the magazines, really think about that seriously before you renew them. In terms of catalogs, most companies that have catalogs now, you can also see the same thing online. So you have to decide, whether or not you really want the paper. If you want to keep catalogs, I would suggest you keep them in something standing up. Don't just put them in a basket in a pile because that becomes a black hole. But then you can pull them out chronologically as a new one comes in. so that when the latest LL Bean catalog comes, you can get rid of the one that came previously.
What additional organizing challenges do your clients have today that weren't even an issue back when you started Organization Plus?
The biggest difference is that people are much busier than they were. You know, people are, if they have children, they're running in all different directions. They run in the house from at the end of the day, and they've either gone to a soccer game or a baseball game, or they're going to one after they sort of swallow something to eat on the way. People who don't have children are very busy. People value leisure time much more than they did, and they really want to be out doing those things. So if you're not there to organize it, it's not going to happen by itself. So you have to figure out how to make it manageable. So I would suggest that you break it down into segments and say, on Saturday morning I'm going to get up, and for half an hour I'm going to work on this. Because the reality is you're not going to do it all day. You're not going to do it all weekend. And if you do, you're going to be miserable. So if you break it up into manageable segments, then you can reward yourself by doing something else later in the day that you really want to do. Most of us are trying to do more than is humanly possible. So you really need to look at what are your priorities, and are you planning the time to do those things. So for instance, if you have a home office and you need to create the structure, very often you're better off with a planner where you see the increments of the time of the day, because you can actually put in not only appointments but tasks that you need to work on, so that you remember that you need to work on those, and there's time slotted for it. Otherwise it's very easy for the day to slip by and you don't really work on those things. And so when people have these long to-do lists, my suggestion is you write down the 3 most important things you want to do that day, and anything you accomplish after that is a plus. So that helps. And also having systems. I'm very big on creating desktop systems or open filing systems, so that there are specific places to put things, like the bills to be paid, coupons that you're saving, gift certificates. Many people have hundreds of dollars of gift certificates that I find strewn around with other papers that they just don't use. But I think the big thing is that there's just so much more information overload that's being thrown at us. When I first started my business in the 80s, the big thing was the snail mail that came. Now it's like, you know, I printed out these emails even though I know I don't have to, but I feel better if I can handle them. So that piles up. And all of the manuals and everything. I mean, when was the last time you purged your manual file? So that with the last 6 phones that you got rid of, you really don't need those manuals anymore because you don't have the phones. Not to mention the electronics that pile up. I mean, certain communities like in Beverly, we're lucky. They just had electronics collection last week. So I had reminded people in my blog that that's an opportunity for them to clear out some of those things that they might be tripping over.